got my cup of coffee. Now we can talk. So this past weekend, my wife and I, we're going to do a little getaway thing to a fun event. I'm not going to go into all the details, by the way. I'm going to try to walk a fine line with these videos. When I get into personal stuff, try to, protect some of the privacy of my marriage and protect my wife's privacy and that kind of thing. But it was going to be a video about this getaway that we did, this fun getaway weekend. It was my wife's her big activity, this thing she's passionate about. It's not really a thing I'm passionate about, but I support it and I think it's cool, and trying to dip a toe into those waters. I thought the video was going to be about that, but instead, what happened this weekend is we kind of had it was weird. There was some weird stuff that went on for both of us. I started going down this weird road in my head of story I was telling myself of what was going on between us, and really a lot of it, I also realized had to do with trauma. I mean, trauma is maybe an excessive word. Drama, maybe. Drama stuff from my ex-wife and from my former marriage. And it was all it was spiraling not out of control, but it was spiraling pretty badly in my head. I knew that's what was happening. I knew that the story I was telling myself was out of control and was not actually connected with reality. It was affecting my behavior with my wife, and she was also dealing with some stuff that was going on in her head and her heart for herself for completely different things. Whenever any of us get turned inward, we get caught up with what's going on internally. We're not connecting all that well with people that we love and care for. I was really caught up in my own thoughts and my own emotions, and so was she, not nearly as badly as I was. She was actually having a blast of a weekend, but also, dealing with some weird thoughts and feelings for herself. But, that leads to a feeling also, on top of everything else, is a feeling of some emotional disconnection between each other. And that just magnified everything going on in my head, and magnified everything going on for her. It's just that little extra salt in the wound, if you will. I've finally learned enough about myself to know, don't bring this up right now. This is not the time, it's not the place, and you're too caught up in what you're feeling and these thoughts that are playing through your head. Pull this apart a little bit. Try to wrestle with this yourself a little bit and see where you can go with it. See what you can accomplish. And so the cool thing was last night, today is Monday, and last night's Sunday. Yet we were, laying in bed last night and we're talking. I feel like for the first time, we really were approaching a difficult conversation with a lot of care and a lot of respect, and not reacting in ways that were triggered by our past relationships and stuff. We talked with love and care, but very openly and forthrightly about, what was going on for me and what was going on for her, and how each of us was affecting the other, and what that was leading to and what it was stemming from. By God, it was amazing, actually. It was really, really cool. And it's also important for me to acknowledge areas of relationships and stuff that I don't handle well. I like to think I do a good bit of the relationship stuff really well. The only way for me to realize I suck at certain parts of relationships is to find myself sucking at certain parts of relationships. For both of us, we've had to come to a place where we don't have to have a confrontational argument. We can have a difficult and uncomfortable conversation. And this felt like our best effort at that yet. By the end of the conversation, we were both in a great place with conversation. We very successfully, actually, really had a fantastic, difficult, uncomfortable conversation about what was going on for both of us. It felt like this huge load was lifted. I'm sure we'll have more conversations about this kind of stuff, because of course it's not like it's over for either of us with what we were dealing with. But I spent a lot of the drive home like thinking about how to bring it up, or how should I talk about it. I am no master of the principles of nonviolent communication. I've bumped up against the concept and the very basic principles of it. I was looking it up on my phone before I started recording this, and I realized, oh, I really don't know much about this at all, other than that you are trying hard to choose language, choose words, phrase, choose what you say to this person you love and care about. So I can talk about what I feel, and I can talk about the things I need, and I can talk about myself without speaking of what the other person has done to me, or is making me feel, or is doing to me. Conflict, or it shouldn't be conflict, it should be communication. I was thinking about nonviolent communication. I was thinking about the book, The Four Agreements. One of those agreements is, I think one of the agreements is something about like, don't create a story if you don't know all the facts. Don't start telling yourself a story, because the story's going to be wrong. Something along those lines. One thing I knew for certain from the very beginning is I was telling myself a story that was coming from a place of hurt feelings and misunderstood, misinterpreted actions. That was on top of that was being sprinkled the drama from my previous marriage that, is still hard for me to deal with, still kind of triggering, let's say. I knew what I was being triggered by from my previous marriage. I knew why this was freaking me out. And yet, I couldn't control it. It was still happening. So it took me a while to wrestle with that and to not lash out in some sort of confrontational language or argument with my wife. And the cool thing is my wife gets it. Well, she knows what it feels like to be triggered by her own stuff from her past. And she can see when I'm being triggered by my stuff from my past. And we've just both grown a lot. We've learned to trust. We've learned to trust that the other person is operating from a place of love, trying their damnedest to be there for the other. What I kind of boiled it down to is there are three crucial parts to love within a marriage. And there's more to love. I'm no philosopher. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a couples therapist. But those three parts that to me stood out were to be appreciated, to be respected, and to be desired. If you don't feel appreciated, if you don't feel respected, if you don't feel desired, the love falls apart. Or no, that's not right. The love doesn't fall apart, but it's scary. I mean, part of what I was dealing with in my heart was that I was scared. So I feel those three aspects of to be appreciated, respected, and desired are crucial in a marriage. Of course, there are times when you're not feeling sexually attracted to someone else because you're too fucking tired, or you're too stressed, or you're the other factors in life have sucked all possibility for desire out of you. That is a situation that comes and goes. It's not about your inherent desire you have for the other person. It's more just situational side effects of what's going on in other aspects of your life. But fundamentally, if you feel appreciated, respected, and desired, then you're in a pretty good place in your relationship. How can you not be? What I was feeling was related to that, was related to those three topics. Not all three. And what she was feeling was related to sort of her things she felt about herself. And the amazing thing was having that hard conversation. Having a conversation that was difficult to have, uncomfortable to have. By the end of that conversation, we fully felt all three of those. We fully felt them presented to us by the other. That's a lot. That's big. It's important. So if you are struggling something in your marriage, in a relationship, you're man, woman, whatever, give that some thought. as things come up, when you struggle, and when you want to lash out, when you want to say something nasty. I mean, and there was a moment where I knew that these words, these thoughts that were kind of coming into my head, were going to come out in a nasty way if I said them. So I shut my fucking mouth and thought and pulled at it and wrestled with it and thought, where is this coming from? This is not a person I ever want to be nasty to. That's not, I love and respect her too much. And she trusts me too much for me to use that trust by being nasty. So when we talked about uncomfortable things, but we did it from a place of real honesty and trying to share what each of us was feeling inside and share where that was coming from and share what our thoughts were and say, the story I am telling myself is this. Trying to use at least some probably flawed and incorrect version of nonviolent communication, but trying to speak from a place of this is the story I am telling myself. These are the thoughts I am feeling, and share that with the other person and navigate that together. It was a great weekend, and I'm very, very grateful and really thankful that we had that hard moment, because we've had hard moments in the past, and in the past we've been triggered by former marriages and spouses and stuff, and trauma and drama related to former stuff, and the communication wasn't as good. Now we're in a place where we can communicate like this, and I'm just incredibly thankful for that. So if you're struggling with this stuff, with communicating and with feelings and all this stuff in a relationship that you're in a marriage, whatever, well, first of all, maybe check out the 4 agreements. Maybe check out what nonviolent communication means. You can find all the principles and stuff online. If there's anything you want my perspective on, reach out, let me know. I will happily lather on to you about my thoughts. So talk soon. I'm going to drink some more coffee.